Good morning. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Hudson. My name is Marilyn Orr, President of the club, and we are thrilled to have you join us today. This meeting broadcast is available on HCTV, as well as our Rotary of Hudson YouTube channel and Facebook. Our club meets weekly using this digital platform, Zoom. When we meet in person, it's at Laurel Lake Retirement Community for breakfast. We hope to get back to that soon. We meet most Wednesday mornings from 7:15 to 8:30 a.m. So come out to join us for a meeting. We would love to have you as a guest. To learn more about Rotary, our club, and the impact we are having on our local community and the world, please visit our website, rotaryhudson.org. So enjoy this meeting today and help us share the message that Rotary opens doors of opportunity.
And we're ready to go.
Good morning, Rotarians and guests. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Hudson. I thought we might have a snow day today, but Maryland did not call it off. So here we are. And welcome to everyone. Our invocation this morning is by Jim Young.
Morning, Rotarians. I know we'd all like to get back to a real meeting, but today's a day that maybe this Zoom meeting isn't so bad. It keeps us from the trekking outside. Let us pray. Thank you for this beautiful day. We are grateful for the privilege of offering ourselves for service. Give us open minds, a clear understanding, and steady purpose to make the most of our talents. Keep us ever mindful of the Rotary four-way test in our business and family life. We ask you to bless this Rotary meeting. Amen.
Amen. And just as a side note to that, and the beauty of waking up this morning with a full moon shining over the snow is really pretty.
Yeah, I took a picture when I went out to get the paper. It was great, Ron.
To lead us in the pledge and the four-way test, Liz Ramsey.
Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic from which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now for the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you, Liz.
You're
And
welcome.
our president, Marilyn Orr.
Good morning, Rotarians. I agree. It's absolutely lovely outside, almost picture postcard or Christmas card worthy. I hope that you all had a nice and cozy Thanksgiving. Although it's not celebrated in the way that many of us would have preferred, let's hope that we can, after COVID is conquered, move forward and have a wonderful blowout celebration next year. And also, welcome to winter. We're new into December, and it seems like COVID remains a huge concern with all of our families. Remember that we are still accepting survey results from all club members, and the best way for our strategic planning committee to appropriately do the job that they've been tasked to do is for each and every club member to honestly and candidly submit their survey. We're pretty impressed with the results thus far, and today is the last pitch I'm going to be making for responses. If you need a hard copy of the survey, please contact me either by phone or by email, and I'll make sure that a copy is delivered to your mailbox. Our scholarship donation drive finished up on Monday. And remember, this was done in lieu of a fall rose and popcorn sale. If anyone finds a check around on their desk, on their working desk, we'll still take it. But nonetheless, that drive has ended. I'll have results soon. This month, we're starting a new month focused on professional sports. And we've got a pretty good lineup schedule for us. I'm going to let John Adams take it out see if we can't get going on all of this. John, are we all teed up? Do you want to please unmute, please? One moment.
I told her to sign in around 7:40, so
Oh, okay.
Renee may not be with us yet, but let me start with her introduction, okay? So I'll read this to all of you. So Renee is in her 19th year with the Browns. So, I mean, that might make her the longest standing employee of the Cleveland Browns organization, maybe in history. I don't know. When you think of all the turnover that organization has had, and currently serves as the vice president and executive director of the Cleveland Browns Foundation. She was named to that position in 2013. Renee manages all long-term strategies and day-to-day operations for the foundation and its commitment to education in Ohio. Renee is a core member of the team's leadership group as the Browns have established a culture where supporting the community is prioritized as a main measurement of success. In 2017, Renee helped develop and launch the team's philanthropic mission of Browns Give Back, the team's community platform that is dedicated to education, youth football, and volunteerism, with a focus of sparking meaningful long-term impact in those three key areas. Last year, the foundation partnered with the Ohio Department of Education and Proving Ground at Harvard University to create the Get to School, Stay in the Game network, a statewide initiative designed to promote the importance of school attendance and put an end to chronic absenteeism. The primary goal of the Get to School network is to raise awareness and provide school districts with the tools and support, and to support strong student attendance and combat chronic absenteeism. So with the theme that we have of sports this month, and then having the availability of Renee to speak to us and her role in the foundation, the committee just thought that it would be a neat person to hear from. So I'm just filling another minute here. It's interesting as we think of that Browns organization and the personalities, the OBJs, the Bakers. I think it's really going to be neat this morning to see the Browns in a whole different way. Instead of what they're taking, it's what they're giving back and doing for the community that we call Northeast Ohio. So that's why we thought Renee would be a good person this morning. So let's see where she is. Renee, are you with us?
Hi, just logged on. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Doing well. How are you? How's everyone?
We are good. I just read your amazing bio, Renee.
Oh, it's not true.
Well, I know the part of being married to an incredible guy, Neil, and 3 growing boys is absolutely true.
That is true, and that's the best part of the bio.
My gosh, between that, keeping up with that team, and then your responsibilities with the Cleveland Browns, when do you sleep?
That's a good question. I try to find a few minutes every now and again.
Renee, are you the longest standing employee of the Cleveland Browns when you consider the turnover? Is there anybody in the building there longer than you've been there?
There are a small handful of us, but there are. Yeah, Jenner Takancic, who runs our community relations department, she's been there since '99. So she has me by a couple of years. I think Chris Powell, who heads up our grounds crew, has been there since the beginning. So probably less than 5 of us, though.
Wow, you've seen a few changes, to put it lightly.
I've seen a few changes and not enough playoffs.
Yeah, well, that's a good answer. Hopefully this year changes that. So.
I hope so. I hope you're right.
Well, Renee, we're excited to have you join us this morning. You know, we certainly are fans of that organization, and we've been through the ups and downs of the team for a long time. And it's going to be neat to hear your presentation this morning about, you know, what having an NFL team in our community means to our community. So the floor is yours.
All right, well, I appreciate it. It's very nice to see everyone. Certainly wish we were together in person, but appreciate the opportunity today, and hopefully we'll get a chance to meet sometime down the road when we return to as close to normal as we're going to get.
Yeah.
So first question, most important question, how many Browns fans do we have? All right, lots of hands, good. Very good. Well, hopefully by the end of the presentation, you learned some things about the Browns you haven't maybe known about before, and it makes you even more proud that the Browns are in your backyard and your home team. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and try to figure out how to share my screen here. So if you give me just a quick second, I'm going to get this started. Okay, can everyone see a big Browns jersey?
Yep.
You able to see that now?
Yep. Now we do. Now
Okay.
we got it. Yep.
All right, perfect. And now let me see if I can find the screen where I get my, hold on real quick. Okay, so, and everybody can see the screen, just want to double check.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, so on this opening, today I want to talk to you a little bit about, you're probably most familiar with the work that the organization does on the community relations side. I know I mentioned Jenna Takancic earlier. She's been there a long time and does a terrific job. Community relations is really the side of the community, taking the players out in the community, the very visible pieces of the Browns supporting the community. And the foundation does things a little bit differently. And I guess I didn't realize how differently until I was asked to lead the foundation. So when I originally started with the team, I started on community relations and had done that for a number of years. And then when Dee and Jimmy came on board, they really saw the importance of doing two sets of work in the community. And so it wasn't, again, until I got into this that I better understood the difference. And I would almost say they're the exact opposite of one another when I thought they were kindred spirits. So with that, I'll go ahead and get started. All right, so on the opening screen, I think it's always important to ground ourselves in what the vision and the mission of the Browns organization is. And our vision is to produce a consistently winning team in the city of Cleveland that inspires optimism amongst our passionate fans and restores the Browns to its rightful place as an iconic franchise. Hopefully this year, this has been a tough one to read the last few years, but hopefully everyone feels good, and we're hopefully starting to turn the ship here. And then our mission, really three things. These are kind of our mantra, if you will. We want to consistently win, want to take great care of our fans, and we want to give back to our communities. So there's not a single person in our organization who isn't familiar with these three parts of our mission. So under Browns Give Back, that's our kind of their community branding, if you will, for all things community. And that includes all of our impact work. So that's education. We do some work in youth football. And then we also do a number of things under the social justice platform. The Browns Foundation is our nonprofit arm, and it is our foundation is what kind of leads all of our education efforts, rather. And so actually, I'm going to see if I can. No, I cannot back up. Hold on. Hold on one moment. I apologize. Okay. So real quickly, Browns Give Back again is overall over all of our community outreach.
We lost the screen.
Uh-oh.
So I don't know what you clicked on, but we've lost the screen.
Okay, let me try that again. How's that?
You just started, so there you go. Okay, so
Okay.
now Cleveland Browns Foundation is what.
Okay, perfect. Oop, now we've got the other screen. All right. I was hoping so I could see my notes, so I'm gonna wing this one.
Sure.
So under the foundation, when Dee and Jimmy became owners, this was obviously a number of years ago. They wanted to do a deeper set of impact work in the community, and so after a number of meetings with business and civic and government leaders, the response on where they should land and focus was really resounding that we needed to support education. And so at that time, we really began, that's when I was brought over to lead the effort under the foundation. And we were really running our foundation like a foundation for the first time, quite frankly. And so we were starting, although the foundation had been in existence since 1999, this is really the first time that we were running it like a true foundation, awarding grants, doing fundraising events. We are a public foundation, so we do have to raise our own funds. So again, we were involved in education. We were hosting or supporting rather a number of different education-based initiatives all the way from birth through college graduation. We had a lot of learning to do. There were a lot of people doing great work in this space. But I think what happened is we ended up being reactive grant makers, and we weren't able to tell our own story. We weren't able to share what our impact was. And so we partnered with the Cleveland School District, and Eric Gordon, if anyone's familiar with his name, he's the CEO and superintendent of the Cleveland Metropolitan School District. And he asked us, we said, listen, if we're going to support the district in a big way, what should we support and how can we best support you? His response was, hey, we're getting ready to start an attendance initiative. And we're like, okay, well, of course, kids should go to school. What's the big deal? So it was at that point that he talked to us about the importance of students not being chronically absent. And so if students are chronically absent in the state of Ohio, that means they're missing at least 18 days of school. And unfortunately, most kids, once they reach chronically absent, they're not going to graduate high school. But in Cleveland, they can't let their students miss more than 10 days because their reading and math scores drop, and their students are 34% less likely to graduate. So we jumped on board. It was a really great opportunity for us to leverage our branding, to leverage our players, to leverage a lot of our assets that we had, and it worked. And then a little bit into the partnership, about 3 years, we said, okay, campaigns and messaging is certainly great, but what else is there? There's more driving this, and why are kids not coming to school? What else is there, and what can we do to help? So Eric at the time had indicated uniforms was a barrier for students. And so we brought together one of our longtime community partners, Shoes and Clothes for Kids, asked the school district if everyone could come together, and we created an initiative called Special Teams Package. And this was a uniforms package for kids who indicated that attendance was a barrier for them if they didn't have their uniforms. We measured the attendance, and their attendance was increasing by at least 25%. So we knew we were onto something. And it was that initiative that really gave us the opportunity to see what our value add was, that we were different than any other grant making organization. We could convene people, we could bring together people to think differently. And it was at that point that we felt like we were ready for our strategic planning process. So we hired an education agency strategy firm to help us do a few things. One, our guiding question was, could the foundation have a greater impact on education by more deeply focusing? So if we stopped kind of spreading our resources so broadly, and if we focused in, could we have a greater impact? And so this organization did a number of things. They came in and they took a look at all of our grant information, all of our grant reports from our partners. They talked to education leaders across the state. They talked to leaders within our building. And we really gave them a clean canvas and said, as long as we're in education, let us know where's the most impactful place we could land. And the resounding answer was that we should stay in attendance. That was really where we were having the most impact, that we could get results and expand because there were a number of other districts who were encountering the same problems. This would allow us to use the Browns brand. It would also allow us, similar to game days, how we bring people together. Again, we found that we have that same role in the community. We can bring people together. And a new space for us is that we could take the lead and advocate. So we had not been really involved in the advocacy space, but that was a place that we could lean into. And the guidance was to take this statewide, which is not really, you will not find that with many professional sports teams. And so this is pretty unique. And so again, why attendance? This is just a really good slide to just show why it's so important and how it really correlates to so many different student outcomes. The first of which is that chronic absenteeism is the strongest predictor of dropping out. In fact, 89% of students who are chronically absent do not graduate on time. Secondly, if you're not in school, you do not have the opportunity you lack certain social skills. So the ability to work in groups, the ability to make decisions, the ability to, again, work independently and make flexible changes and kind of monitor and monitor yourself and your reactions. And then lastly, unfortunately, we know that this is a higher students who are chronically absent are much more likely to be certain subgroups. And so they're Native American, oftentimes African American and Hispanic. And so it's really important for us to be aware of that data as we head into this work. So if we take a look at the attendance landscape across the country, 14% of our students are chronically absent. Unfortunately, in the state of Ohio, it's higher than that average at 16.4. And then as we get closer to, if we take a look at some of the more urban cities in Cleveland, we've actually helped them decrease their chronic absenteeism rate by 5% to 30, but 30% of students in Cleveland being chronically absent is still not okay. And the 42% that you see down there, that's the Columbus City School District. 42% of their students are chronically absent.
Wow.
And so, yeah, but you'll find similar challenges in rural communities as well. And again, we know that this works. This is just a compilation of different engagements and activations that we had done over the previous 3 to 4 years with the Cleveland School District. They named their program Get to School, You Can Make It. Eric Gordon was adamant that we joined his staff. We were in monthly staff meetings with him. We helped design and create the initiative with them. But you can see one of our former players here doing a hands-on activity with students. Arby's would provide lunches as a monthly reward to students who were doing great with their attendance. We even did some cool STEM related curriculum with Purell and Gojo, who is one of our partners as well. And then of course, all kinds of fun incentives and rewards for students. And I mentioned that 10-day absence threshold. That's what they called on-track attendance. And so you can see from the box on the top that the work resulted in 4,100 additional students staying on track with their attendance, which again is really important so they don't take that slide all the way to being chronically absent. And then again, that harder to move number is students who are chronically absent, moving that up by 5%. And so when you're talking about students who are chronically absent, what we're finding is that they're really primarily living in poverty. And so the compounding issues that are surrounding students living in poverty are really resulting in them not making it to school. And so we landed on our new plan, and this was what our goal was to keep kids in school every day so they can succeed. And then we laid out a few objectives that we felt were important, that we were going to partner. Our community partners were going to shift from nonprofits to school districts. And we were going to work with school districts to help them come up with comprehensive attendance plan that was focused on all students. We were going to help them build school-going cultures, help them remove the barriers. So similar to what we had done with Cleveland with the uniforms, identifying what was keeping kids from school in other communities. Once we're getting them there, we want to make sure that they're engaged, that they feel like the curriculum means something to them, that it's of value. And then lastly, again, making sure that we're advocating for policies and resources for kids to help them succeed. I'm a visual person, so this is the visual depiction of what I just kind of outlined. So again, partnering with districts, helping them come up with a plan. And then one of the things that we really learned from Cleveland is that we need to know who's not coming and why they're not coming. And it's only once we have that data that we can really triage and figure out what's happening. And so there are three kind of categories that the absences break down into, and it's either cultural, and you can see some of the examples listed below that, real barriers, and then your opportunities. And EPSOs are early post-secondary opportunities. And I think in Ohio, oftentimes we call it college credit plus programs, where you can get the dual credit for high school and college, because for kids who may not even see themselves in college, for them to think that they're going to be able to pay for, and they're having income to help their family for another 4 years, any of those things that we can shorten the timeline for kids is definitely helpful. And so luckily we found a couple of fantastic partners, because there was no way we were going to be able to do this by ourselves. And so the Ohio Department of Education, they actually, on the ESSA plans, or Every Student Succeeds Act plans that districts have to report every year, chronic absenteeism is the only non-academic measure that they have to report out on. And so if they're asking districts to report on this, they need to be able to provide supports for districts. And unfortunately, up until we launched our initiative with them, they didn't have a program to support districts. So this came at a really great time for them. And they were working with a group called Proving Ground out of Harvard with a number of districts. And so they became our second partner. Who would have thought? The Cleveland Browns working with Harvard. Not too bad for some jocks, huh? So anyway, so Proving Ground does a great job. They're also focused on chronic absenteeism, and they are our data powerhouse. They do a lot of data analytics. They do some peer networking so that districts are learning from one another, strategic advice, but really they go in and they help analyze data. They go through a root cause analysis process so they can identify why kids aren't coming. They help the districts design interventions, measure, and implement those. And so two tremendous partners. And so out of that came Get to School, Stay in the Game. And this is the program that we launched last August. And you can see we wanted to pay homage to Cleveland and all of the great work that they did. And so we nodded our cap to Cleveland, and Eric Gordon gave us his blessing to use Get to School as the name. And then we wanted to make sure that it felt a little bit more like the Browns. So we added Stay in the Game. You can see our partners at the bottom. The one on the far right is actually the Crew Foundation. So Dee and Jimmy Haslam, if you're not aware, they also own the Columbus Crew, and we're working on getting their foundation added to the network as well, which will really, truly help us make this a statewide network. And so this slide really just quickly outlines how we go about our work with districts, the campaign. So we come in as the Browns Foundation and we help. This is our probably where we're best suited coming out of the work with Cleveland, is we know how to help districts build an attendance campaign. How do they communicate to all of their stakeholders, their families, their students? How do they get their educators to champion this? We want to make sure that schools feel like a welcoming place for students, because that's what we hear a lot of times is they don't feel welcomed, they feel judged. And the other piece that's really important about a campaign is we want to make sure that this is supportive in nature and not punitive. And this is not a family problem. It's not a school problem. It really is a community problem. And we need everyone to band together to help our students. And then again, we talked about the data, the importance of the interventions, and that combination really brings together the opportunity for us to both increase attendance for all students, but then hopefully get at some of those harder to reach students by decreasing chronic absenteeism. And this is a fun slide. This is basically a whole array of campaign materials that you can see that we leverage our brand, we leverage our players, and we really bring this campaign to life. You can see some posters of Jarvis Landry, the one below with Nick Chubb. That's the look for this year. You can see t-shirts that are branded with the Crew for down in the Crew market. This poor little kid looks like he's wearing a dress, but adult size t-shirts. But before COVID, obviously, we were able to bring kids out to games and out to training camp and do a lot of really fun things to make them feel special, and that we're recognizing them and noticing that they're doing what they can to get to school, because it is harder for a lot of these kids to get to school, harder than it is for our kids. And then some yard signs, because it is important to get community support around the district. So this just gives you a really good idea of the visual behind the campaign. And if anyone has any questions as I go through, please feel free to ask as I go too.
Renee, I have a question. Look, where does the foundation get their money from?
Really great question. So we are a public foundation. So we do have, we do the 50-50 raffle on game days. So hopefully, well, on game days, we actually changed the format this year. You're actually able to purchase them from your home. We've almost spanned this out to the state of Ohio as well. The only market, both for this program actually, as well as our fundraising for the raffle, we cannot market or promote within a 75-mile radius of the Bengals. That's an NFL rule. But the rest of the state can purchase raffle tickets while those raffles are open, not just on game day, but we actually have one open now through the Steelers game on January 3rd. So the raffle, we also typically do a golf tournament every year. We had done the family night or the scrimmage, which was also a decent fundraiser for us. And then one thing that you might not be aware of that Dee and Jimmy Haslam do that no other owner in sports does is they actually donate the Browns profits from the team shop at the store. All of that goes straight to the foundation.
Is that right? Wow.
Mm-hmm. And that's really, that's it. So what we're able to generate, that's what we turn around and we give and invest right back into the community. And then these slides, I should be able to go through these pretty quickly, but this is really how we lay out the work. We have kind of 4 levels of the network. The first outermost layer is the statewide campaign. So that's really just the marketing and the messaging and making sure that we're making stay in the game or get to school really, really cool so that districts can kind of leverage that and do their own activation in their district. So hopefully if you come to a Browns game, you're not leaving the stadium without hearing about the initiative. It's really promoted on all of our platforms, but you may not have seen it if you haven't been able to come to a game this year. I know obviously that's been pretty limited. And then the innermost rings, these are, I like to compare these if you're season ticket holders or come to games and have tickets. So the gray layer is kind of our lowest entry point. So this would be like the equivalent of if you purchase single game tickets and you came to one game. So we're just trying to get them to our website, which is outstanding. Check out a couple of our resources. We have a few things that are downloadable and free to any district to access. And then the next layer, this orange layer, is our planning district. And so we're actually working on a really great online platform to help self-guide districts to be able to build their own attendance campaign. And so they'll have a little bit more involvement. So this is kind of like your multi-game ticket member. And then our action districts, this is our bread and butter right now. This is like the equivalent of our season ticket holder or our suite holder. There are action districts. We have a number of them, and they're really our pilot districts. We're testing, we're working with them. We're trying to learn from them, because if this doesn't work at the ground level for our districts, there's really no sense in us doing this, right? So we need to make sure that we're learning from them and we're shaping this in a way that's important for them. And then again, we're taking that, all of our learnings, and we're feeding that to, we talked about the advocacy work. We have an advisory board, and the advisory board consists of a representative. We have the governor's office on board. We have the Supreme Court Justice, Maureen O'Connor, which is really important because typically the Supreme Court gets involved when it needs to be punitive or students are truant. So we're trying to really get them on board and be positive and supportive and proactive. We have the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, because as you can imagine, a lot of our families and our students are dealing with a lot, especially in the year of a pandemic. Department of Job and Family Services. We have the state superintendent, Dee Haslam, is on board. And then we have the executive director of a national nonprofit called Attendance Works. And she is on board as well. So you will not see a single article written about attendance without Hetty Chang being quoted. So it's really wonderful that she thinks enough of the work that we're doing in the state to want to join hands with us. Again, just an example of a few different ways that we're marketing and promoting and activating the initiative. The one on the left here, I like to highlight. This is a little bit different. Obviously, Joe Thomas is one of our favorite alums. And each year the NFL does a pretty cool initiative called My Cause, My Cleats, where the players each can customize and pick a charity of choice. And he has chosen Get to School in the Cleveland Browns Foundation both last year, and he's actually going to support us again this year too. So he brings some obviously great coverage. You can see him holding the shoes in front of him during the interview. Player appearances, and this is kind of what it looks like in game. So again, just kind of a look and feel to really make this exciting for kids. Talked about our partner districts. So you can see we really are statewide at this point. Again, we are not able to promote or invest in communities within a 75-mile radius of Columbus. I'm sorry, Cincinnati. But you can see that we have a whole host of districts that we're working with, rural and urban. And then the 4 districts listed on the bottom, these districts have actually joined at that learning community level, that outermost ring or that gray ring that we talked about. So Youngstown, which I'm really excited about because typically there's a lot of the other team promoted out in Youngstown. We don't like to say that name. Dayton, and so that'll be our first crew branded community because that's too close to Cincinnati for us, but the Columbus Crew can market to them. So we're going to make sure that that's a Columbus Crew branded district. Euclid and Elyria. So all of these communities really have pretty high chronic absenteeism rates. They have identified attendance as a priority for them. They have district buy-in, leadership buy-in, and they want to really invest the time and effort to try to champion this as a district.
Renee, I've got a couple questions here that came in. Are there other teams in the league that are modeling this kind of work? I mean, look at the impact that you showed us that this is having in our community, our backyard. I mean, it's generational type of impact. Kids going to school, getting educations, graduating, what that means for society. Is that, I mean, how could other, I mean, I'm just wondering, are other teams possibly modeling what you guys are doing?
Not yet.
Wow.
Not yet. But what I'll say is that that's our hope. I mean, we're really structured differently. And I will say that that's really as a result of Dee and Jimmy being so laser focused on impact, right? They don't want to do things for the sake of doing them. We only want to do this if it makes sense. And what's different is we talked about being a reactive grant making organization, and you'll oftentimes find foundations or even sports teams, they identify their focus areas and then they'll still accept grant applications for those focus areas. And that's their kind of strategy. Well, ours is much different. And it was a real fundamental shift to move from reactive grant making to identifying a problem and setting out to address that and figuring out who best do we bring on board and how do we solve this as a community. So what I will say though, is we're just getting started because, you know, we're still finding our sea legs. We're still figuring out how to work with Proving Ground, how to work with ODE. And we have 600 and I think 10 districts in the state of Ohio. We're working with about 18 right now. We need to build the infrastructure and build this in a way that it's a sustainable, scalable model. We are trying to build this in a way that can be replicated in other states. And I think a lot of the tools that we are building, I know a lot of other communities may not want Browns branded items or Crew branded items, but it could be used essentially by any district across the country. And we are finding that a lot of our traffic on our website is coming from other states. So we do hope that over time, it's something that other sports teams and maybe the NFL even grabs hold of. But it would take a pretty big shift in their thinking to move to this, because a lot of times teams like to do a number of different initiatives versus one. But I would say it's that nice balance that we have between our community relations department doing that public facing stuff and doing that so well, and us being able to do the deeper rooted in the trenches stuff that doesn't, you know, we don't have all kinds of stories to share out on a regular basis because this is harder. These are harder to move numbers, right? This is, to your point, John, generational. And so how do we really break this cycle and get kids and parents and the community rallying behind everyone?
So I've got a couple thoughts, and I don't know if you still have comments. We can wait to the end till you're done with your presentation. What would you like to do? Do you have anything?
Oh, you're fine. Keep going.
So like, what about the Indians or the Cavs? I mean, have you all collaborated on that? Or, I mean, you guys kind of doing your own thing?
Good question. So we actually just recently, I would say within the last 4 to 5 months, the 3 teams have come together, primarily under the social justice umbrella. And voting, there was a lot of work around voting, trying to, nonpartisan, but just the importance of registering and actively voting. We have identified across the 3 general managers that the educational equity is one of those, and we fundamentally believe the work we're doing is a social justice issue. And the digital divide, which is part of the presentation as well. And so we've done a number of things to address digital divide. So the 3 teams are just coming together. I think for us, the challenge is we have a significant amount of resources invested in this. And so we need to make sure we have like-minded and invested partners as well. We can't simply make this logo soup, for the lack of a better term, just to make, cool, right? We need to make sure we have folks that are interested in moving the needle, that they're focused on the mission, and they're going to be additive. And so we are in discussions. The Cavs and Indians are aware of what we're doing, and the Cavs are very interested in sitting down to meet with us to figure out how we came to this. And they probably wouldn't land on attendance, but how could we carry them with us on what we're doing? And then similarly, how could they bring us along on what they're doing? So we are in discussions with the Cavs and the Indians.
Renee, I mean, aside from, let's call it the X's and O's of what the team does on the field and the results on Sundays or Wednesdays in this case, that's really, that's such a big thing that we all rise and fall based on performance on the field. With the NFL and I'm going to call it their image problems in some areas, player conduct, you name it. I just am wondering, with such an amazing initiative like this and the impact that it's having, I'm just wondering when you're going to email me that now you're working in New York and not in Cleveland, and now you're running the whole deal for the NFL, because what an amazing program this is.
Well, we couldn't do this alone. We certainly would not be here without ODE and Proving Ground. And everybody puts in, there are no hidden agendas. Everyone is just in it for the right reasons. And we hope that either other teams or the NFL take an interest in what we're doing. But if not, that's okay. We're working on our students and making sure that Ohio hopefully gets past that national average. We need to be lower than that national average is our initial goal. And we're working on some pretty aggressive goals right now with the network that in 10 years sounds like a long time, but that we want to reduce chronic absenteeism by 50%. And that's, again, that sounds like that would be easy, but when you're talking about poverty, it's really addressing childhood poverty. But I fundamentally believe that Ohio is small enough and connected enough that we could hopefully, if done right, can bring the right organizations and the right folks together to make some real systematic change. So we'll see. If I'm probably a little Pollyannish, but that's my hope.
We've got a couple members that are board members of our school here in Hudson, James Field and others. So I'm my mind is math oriented, and so I'm just thinking about the economics that you two could make as a presentation of somebody actually not dropping out of school, getting
right. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, and then they become a productive member of society versus maybe a recipient of social safety net programs that are there for those that didn't finish school. It just seems like there's an economics impact to what you're doing that I don't know if you've ever really explored those numbers, or if Harvard's ever explored those numbers, but that would speak so loudly. I'd be curious.
That's a really good point.
Done.
That's a very good call.
So I've got a couple more questions. Bill Libby wants to know, is there any provision of scholarships to college through the College Now Great Cleveland. I don't know if this involves scholarships, and let me tie into another question. How are you getting teachers engaged and committed in this program?
Good, both good questions. So we actually do have a scholarship. It's unrelated to this, only because the cost to partner with each district is pretty substantial to prepare and print all of the kind of swag that we give them to make the campaign cool. Plus, we're also investing in building the platforms and building the websites. But we do have a scholarship. We offer 2 every year. It's called the Marion Motley Scholarship. And we have awarded, gosh, I think about 22 scholarships. Those are two $10,000 scholarships. And they typically go to first generation college students. And we have a similar population. Typically the 5-year graduation rate is, I think, like 28%. And we have like 92% of our scholarship recipients have graduated in 5 years. So really, really proud of our scholarship recipients, but we certainly promote the scholarship through Get to School. But obviously the cost of college scholarships, we aren't able to offer too many of those. Again, public foundation and trying to do what we can and trying to reach kids K-12 right now, but definitely something good to keep in mind. And then educators was at the second part of the question.
Yes. Yeah.
So we do have on our website, one of the key stakeholder groups. So when we work with districts, we talk about 4 different stakeholder groups. One is their educators. We need to make sure that they are championing this. They are walking billboards. They are, the first sign that a student sees, and that's their first reaction to whether or not they're welcomed and wanted at school, or if educators care about them. And so that is an instrumental piece. We have resources and tools on the website for teachers, but we do work with districts. That is a core group to get on board. We want them to feel like as part of their professional development, we're talking to them about messaging. We're giving them posters and things to put in their classrooms to really liven up, again, their messaging. The shirts that we have, believe it or not, the implicit message of teachers wearing those on Fridays. We want you here. Fridays tend to be a lower attendance day. And so by teachers wearing those and talking about how excited they are that their students are there, little things like that for our kids that just don't have the same supports really is making a huge, huge difference. And so then we're also trying to spotlight what local educators are doing on all of our platforms as well.
So literally one of our school board members asked this question. Have you presented to the Ohio School Board Association annual meeting? Every school board in Ohio attends. This year it was virtual, as you would suspect. And then the second part of the question, are you working with the challenges of remote learning, Wi-Fi, workspaces, supervision, et cetera? I mean, this might not be your area with the Browns, but maybe the school districts are dealing with that particular issue. But any comment on any of that?
Yeah, and actually that's a pretty good setup for this slide right here, to be honest. So our program, first year we're up and running, we are cruising, and COVID hits. So our first year baseline numbers to track attendance when spring hit obviously took a complete nosedive. And what we were starting to hear was that parents were, they were under the impression that we were trying to say that physically getting to school was more important than someone's health, which was not the case at all. We felt like school isn't necessarily place-based, which I think we all know. Work is no longer necessarily place-based either. And so what we did was we took our tagline, "Stay in the Game," and we made that kind of our program name. So I'm not sure if we're going to stay the course with this or not. But it did make sure that we were more relevant, staying in the game, doing what they can on a daily basis, keep learning every day, regardless. It doesn't say where it's at. So that is one significant change that we had to make in this remote learning environment. And then secondly, these are some of the activations that we did. So we do need to make sure, again, that we're listening to the field and we're aware, because if we're not, then we're missing the boat. What we were hearing is on Zoom calls, kids are very, or Google Meets or whatever they're on, they're very embarrassed about their home, or they feel very violated by having people see into their home. And so we created these virtual backgrounds that you can do on Zoom, you can do them, and you can add those as your background photo. And so it creates a sense of privacy. And you can see up here in the right-hand corner of the second one, there's a Stay in the Game logo. This one on the far left looks like the press backdrop. So they're almost like they're being interviewed after a game. We tried to really leverage quotes from players to make sure they understand that we're still with them, and the players are actually going through much of the same in terms of every meeting being on Zoom and needing to stay focused. And then on the right, we had some players read books. We did some trivia contests with kids. So we really needed to change our activations, but I think that name change really made a big difference for us to be able to stay relevant. And we actually, I think, gained some traction that way too.
Renee,
Yes.
Go ahead.
So as you talk about kind of this remote learning, so a couple of things. One of the immediate areas that we obviously knew was a challenge was not only the kids checking in every day, which is obviously one issue, but for many of the districts that we're working with, especially in East Cleveland, the fourth poorest community in the country, they still didn't have devices for all of their students. And East Cleveland actually doesn't have the infrastructure for many of their homes even have internet. And so our players, through the Social Justice Committee, a number of players, coaches, ownership, contributed $350,000, which took care of a lot of the needs for increased bandwidth, hotspots, remaining devices, some safety equipment for kind of touchless scanners and things like that that the district needed. Wanted to make sure that was kind of our immediate approach, was to focus on getting the students what they need. Another district that we're working on an announcement for, so please don't share this quite yet, but Maple Heights is another one. So we had the new jerseys this last year, and for the sales of the jerseys, we donated funds to frontline workers through our Hats Off to Our Heroes program. And a portion of that money, we're going to help fund Maple Heights. Their teachers are having a really tough time because their students right now, many of the families only have one device per family. So if they have 2 to 3 students, they have to have their younger students maybe take their, recorded classes and watch those in the morning, and they're staggering so that the families can share this device all the way across the day, which is, it's just not a good situation. It's definitely not a way to keep our students engaged. And so working with them and a couple of other organizations, we also are working on digital device collection. Starting Monday, all of our Fifth Third branch locations will be accepting any old devices that anyone has. So even cell phones, power cords, all that stuff you can't remember what it plugs into, older laptops, iPads, they will take it all. They refurbish what they can, they wipe it all clean, and then they refurbish it for a very, very nominal fee for families in low-income communities so that they can connect as well. And then I'm sorry?
Fifth Third?
Fifth Third.
Okay,
Yep.
great.
So as of Monday, hopefully if everything goes well, they'll have all of their collection bins in every branch.
That's awesome.
And then the 3-team alliance that I mentioned, this is going to be our long-term strategy, is to really try to stay engaged until everyone has affordable, sustainable, and equitable internet.
Renee, we're wrapping up close to our 8:30 time.
Yep.
And so I'm just going to ask you a personal story of, you're doing amazing work. The Browns are doing amazing work. And so, I'm almost asking you, like, what do you love? Like, what's a story that you could share with us that just shows the impact that you're having on your community? Is there something that stands out to you? Is there a child or something that just makes you really proud of what you get to do every day?
Yeah, I need to see if I can find it in time, but we had, so when we made the announcement to East Cleveland, we asked the district for a couple of quotes, one from an educator, obviously the superintendent, but there was one from one of the students that, if it doesn't break your heart and make you realize why this is so important, I don't know what will. And it was something to the effect of, we didn't know we mattered.
Wow.
And the fact that the fact that the Browns are doing this, it makes us feel like a whole person. So I think, you know, something along those lines, and I'm happy to send the quotes because I'm not doing it justice, but it was, you know, you don't get to hear that oftentimes because we're working with district leaders and we don't get, you know, that direct access to families, but to hear that directly from a middle school student who's, you know, I'm sure pretty proud, to be humbled to acknowledge that's pretty powerful. So
It is.
I just want to move faster, right? I mean, every day that goes by, every month that goes by, we just need to pick up speed. We need everyone joining, you know, the effort, and we'll get there. Got a lot of great folks working on it, and but yeah, I love it. Now, if you told me to go back and work on the community relations side, I'd tell you no way.
No way. Okay, I've
No
got to
way.
ask.
This is what I'm meant to be, part of the solution.
I've got to ask, and then we got to wrap. Is who's your favorite player to work?
Oh, that's
Is
like
it
asking who
Joe?
your favorite kid is.
Is it Joe?
Oh man. Well, I'm not, what I need to say is I don't work directly with the players like I
know,
used to.
I
on a
know,
community
but you
relations
used
side.
to. But you used to.
I used to. Who, I don't think I can pick.
Okay, good. That's
I can't.
that's a fair answer, because then that tells us that the team is made up of really good guys for the most
They
part.
really are. Yes, they really are.
Well,
This is an absolutely awesome program.
thank you, Renee.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Marilyn.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And I really, I always get so excited to talk about my work. You know, it's hard to put your work in a social media post or, you know, something really quick. You never get a chance to talk about it. And this takes a long time to set up.
Yeah.
So really, we really appreciate everyone's interest and willingness to hear me preach and get excited about what we do. So, but I do really think that Dee and Jimmy have this figured out on how best to really leverage a sports team for change and to make a difference. And so I couldn't be more proud to at least be lucky enough to do this work.
Nice job, Renee. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you.
Bye.
Your enthusiasm, honestly, is very, very good. Who would have thunk it? You know, data talks in a situation like this, and this is really huge. We know that our young people admire the Browns, especially in a winning year. So what better way to set off a winning program than in a winning year? A collaborative effort between football and soccer? I mean, whoa, this just really blows my mind. So next week, we've got a real treat as well. Bob DiBiasio from the Cleveland Indians will be back. He's always entertaining. We look forward to having him come. We always learn a few new facts about the team. So join us next week for another great program. Also next week, it will be time again for the monthly Hudson Rotary Club board meeting immediately following the Zoom meeting. So put that on your calendar. Remember, all members are welcome to attend this. And we're going to close this out real quickly, looking back at this day in history. In 1697, St. Paul's Cathedral, designed by Sir Christopher Wren, was consecrated for the use as the previous building had been destroyed in the Great London Fire. In 1804, Napoleon Bonaparte is crowned the Emperor of France in Paris. Now, there is a painting in the Louvre that essentially says, forget the bishop, he crowned himself. Now, obviously, this didn't turn out so well for him. In 1823, President James Monroe declared his Monroe Doctrine on this day, a U.S. foreign policy that essentially said, Western Hemisphere, leave us alone. And in 1845, Manifest Destiny, the U.S. President James K. Polk announced to Congress that the United States should aggressively expand into the West. For many of us, this is how the rest of the country became populated. For those who were already there, it wasn't a very good day. So on that note, we're going to close this meeting today. Have a great day. Let's hope that all of the snow blowers work in the upcoming weeks. And it was great to see so many attending. This was a really awesome program. I liked it a lot.
Thanks, Marilyn.
Hey, John.